Chapter 10. As I approached the end of the trail, the sun was setting in Sharon, casting an orange glow on the city. The air was thick with the smell of burning fires, which billowed smoke into the sky at the far end of the Street of the Six Shepherds. I hid in the shadows of a nearby wall, waiting for my target. My skin crawled with discomfort from the grimy shirt I had been wearing for days. In this part of town, it was wise to appear shabby, and the locals didn't waste water on unnecessary washing. I discreetly scratched my skin and cautiously scanned the street for any signs of movement. The area appeared deserted, except for a few drunken vagrants slumped in doorways. The Street of the Six Shepherds was a notorious slum, but I made sure my weapon was easily accessible just in case. Sharon was a perilous place, especially for Earthmen like myself. Even with Dallas's guidance, finding information on men like Lyric was challenging. Sharon was unlike Shensa, where humans and non-humans lived separately. Here they lived in close proximity, and information could be bought, but the buyer had to beware. The seller's life was often at risk. As I walked down the street, a dirty, dusty wind blew, carrying strange smells. The pungent odor of incense mixed with a heavy, acrid scent that made my skin crawl. The ghost wind was rising in the hills behind Charon, and the Yarmen would soon sweep down from the mountains, causing everything human or nearly human to scatter. The yelping in the distance signaled their approach. Suddenly, a girl's scream shattered the silence. I saw her running between two pebble houses, a lumbering man chasing after her. She was a thin, barefoot child with long black hair. She threw herself at me, her small hands gripping my back like a cat's claws. She begged for my help, speaking in the pure speech of Shensa, not the jargon of the slum. Without hesitation, I pulled her behind me and scowled at the brute. I told him to make himself scarce and warned him not to chase little girls. He reeled back, but then he noticed my dry-town accent and set up a tipsy howl. I knew I was in trouble. If I didn't get out of there quickly, I would lose what I had come to Charon to find. I considered handing the girl over, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. This was my business now. At the end of the street, Lyric awaited me by the fires. The smell of the ghost wind was already heavy and harsh, and little flurries of sand raced along the street, lifting the flaps of the doorways. But I did not act sensibly. The big lunk made a grab at the girl, and I quickly drew out my skein and gestured for her to run. "Dry-towner!" He spat out the word like filth, his pig eyes narrowing to slits. "Son of the ape! Earthman!" "Trantoran!" Someone else joined in the howling. There was a stir, a rustle, all along the street that had seemed empty, and from nowhere, it seemed, the space in front of me was crowded with shadowy forms, human and otherwise. "Earthman!" I felt the muscles across my belly knotting into a band of ice. I did not believe I had given myself away as an Earthman. The bully was using the time-honored tactic of stirring up a riot in a hurry, but just the same, I looked quickly around, searching for a way to escape. "Put your skein in his guts, Spilkar! Grab him! High eye! Earthman! High eye!" It was the last cry that made me panic. Through the sultry glare at the end of the street, I could see the plumed, taloned figures of the Yarmen gliding through the banners of smoke. The crowd melted open. I did not stop to reflect on the fact, suddenly very obvious, that Lyric could not have been at the fires at all, and that my informant had led me into an open trap, a nest of Yarmen already inside Charon. The crowd edged back and muttered, and suddenly I made my choice. I whirled, snatched up the girl in my arms, and ran straight toward the advancing figures of the Yarmen. Nobody followed me. I even heard a choked shout that sounded like a warning. I heard the yelping shrieks of the Yarmen grow to a wild howl, and at the last minute, when their stiff, rustling plumes loomed only a few yards away, I dived sidewise into an alley, stumbled on some rubbish, and spilled the girl down. "Run, kid!" She shook herself like a puppy climbing out of water. Her small fingers closed like a steel trap on my wrist. "This way!" she urged in a hasty whisper, and I found myself plunging out the far end of the alley and into the shelter of a street shrine. The sour stink of incense smarted in my nostrils, and I could hear the yelping of the Yarmen as they leaped and rustled down the alley, their cold and poisonous eyes searching out the recess where I crouched with the girl. "Here," she panted. "Stand close to me on the stone." I drew back, startled. "Oh, don't stop to argue," she whimpered. "Come here. High eye, Earthman! There he is! The girl's arms flung around me again. I felt her slight, hard body pressing on mine, and she literally hauled me toward the pattern of stones at the center of the shrine. I would not have been human if I had not caught her closer yet. The world reeled. The street vanished in a vortex of whirling lights, the stars gyrated wildly, and I hurtled downwards through a vast expanse of nothingness, clasped tightly in the girl's embrace. We tumbled, spun, and careened through a kaleidoscope of shifting hues and shades that propelled us through endless eons of weightlessness. The frenzied cries of the Yar-men faded into the unfathomable reaches of space, and for a fleeting moment I experienced the merciless blackout of a nosedive, with blood streaming from my nostrils and filling my mouth.